What's going on, y'all? Welcome back to basketball, and more importantly, welcome back to not Bleacher Report. We are going back to Fanspo. So I was kind of looking around for what I wanted to record today, and I saw this article on Bleacher Report that was ranking the top 10 NBA trade chips right now. And then I decided, do we really trust Bleacher Report that much with this article? I have not read it. I see Khalil Ware on the cover of it, and I'm like, I don't know if that completely makes sense. Where are we going with this? So I kind of had a different idea. We can scroll through this article quick, but what we're going to do is we're going to go through each NBA team via Fanspo. I think that that's kind of a good way to show like a lot of where teams are at right now and just financial situations, things like that. And we're going to figure out who the best trade chip is on every single team. But before we go and do that, make sure you guys like, subscribe, and comment. I've responded to every single comment to my YouTube channel up to this point, and I intend to keep on doing so. So go give some of my more recent videos a watch. They've been a lot of fun. I know it's kind of the dead point of the NBA season, but we're finding interesting things to talk about. Anyway, let's get on with the video. All right, so let's establish some guidelines here for what we're going to be doing in this video. When we're over on Fanspo and we're kind of taking a look at some of the different options for players here, I think that it's important to kind of note, like, hey, what is a good, like, trade chip, right? And what I'm going to establish as a good trade chip is basically by wherever teams are at, like as an organization, whether you're a contender, you're a rebuilding team, there's certain guys that just don't make sense, right? Because like obviously a guy like Lauri Markkanen or something like that would be the most valuable trade chip on a team. Like the Lakers would be like LeBron James, and I don't want to see some people in the comments be like, EVC, LeBron James is technically the most valuable trade chip that they have. Guess what, dummy? Shut the fuck up. You're not very smart, okay? You're just not very smart. So we actually want to take into account like the situation that the team is in to figure out like, hey, what's actually an expendable asset? And from there, we can kind of determine like, what's the best trade piece? And the best trade piece might be a draft pick, by the way. It very well might. I do want to scroll through the article very quick and see if there's anything interesting. This Milwaukee Bucks 2029 first-round pick, sure, I could see that. Nikola Topic, okay, yeah, that makes some sense. Reed Shepherd, I don't know if he's the most valuable on that team at this moment, but sure. The Golden State Warriors 2028 first-round pick, maybe. Yeah, it's hard to tell. Cason Wallace, I don't know why the Thunder would trade Cason Wallace. It doesn't make a ton of sense to me. The Clippers 28 first-round pick. This team seems like it's contending all the time, so not necessarily. Ron Holland, I could potentially see that, but we'll see. Khalil Ware, I don't know why the Heat would necessarily trade him. The Phoenix Suns 2027 and 2029 first-round picks, maybe. I don't necessarily know. Jared McCain. Interesting one. I'm not so sure about that. But anyway, get Bleacher Report off the screen. Get them out of here, man. It pisses me off sometimes. So what I want to do is we're going to go through every single team. We're kind of going to look through their roster. We'll talk about like where they're at as a team right now, and we'll figure out, hey, what are the best trade chips that they have? And we're starting off with the Utah Jazz here. Just kind of looking through this team here. This is a rebuilding team, right? So draft picks are important to them. In terms of like extra draft picks, they have like they have these Minnesota, like Cleveland swap rights, which probably not that valuable because both of those teams are pretty solid, which actually makes like the Cleveland and Minnesota trades with them look a lot better because they're really not giving up anything too crazy. Obviously, certain young players they want to keep around. Maybe certain other young players aren't necessarily as valuable. This obviously isn't a very good basketball roster in and of itself, but I'm going to say one of their best trade pieces might be Keontae George. It might be Keontae George here. And just pulling up George to take a look at him, he's been a good scorer in the NBA so far. Like, offensively, he's been pretty damn solid, right? Defensively, he's one of the worst that we have in basketball. It's been pretty rough for the dude so far, but the reason he might become expendable is if the Jazz decide to focus on an Isaiah Collier, and it doesn't look like they have any of the rookies on here yet, do they? That's a little bit annoying, but I actually think Walter Clayton is a pretty solid piece for them moving forward, so maybe a Keontae George could be something valuable to them. I'm not saying they need to trade him this year. The Jazz don't really have to do anything all that crazy and acquire anything all that wild, but you've got all these young guards that you're kind of building. Maybe you don't need all of them, right? So I'm gonna say that maybe Keontae George could be a look. There's not a lot of options on this team, right? There's just not a lot of options on here, and I'm almost wondering now if like if our spreadsheet would be a better way of looking at this, but I don't know. The numbers are maybe more accurate on here. What do we think? Should I go? I'm talking to you guys like you're in front of me right now. Maybe the spreadsheet is a little bit better of a way to look at it. So give me 1 second. Alrighty, we're back here on the ultimate spreadsheet. Oh man, I do think this might be a little bit better visually. Not everything is probably up to date just because I haven't opened this spreadsheet and run like a simulation of it in a second. So just chill out if there's something that's not completely accurate. I guarantee you all the important stuff is there. But let's start with the Atlanta Hawks. Now, the Hawks are obviously trying to win some basketball games this year, but who might not be like absolutely necessary to this team? I think Kobe Buffkin as like kind of a former first round pick. He's been hurt a lot, hasn't been able to show a ton on the basketball court. Probably not completely necessary in this group too, because I don't think he's ever going to play that point guard type role that maybe people thought at one point. And you've got kind of these other two guards that are clearly in front of him. It'd be nice if he can develop more of like a point guard type game because the depth isn't exactly like elite on this team at that position, but I think Kobe Buffkin could be he could be one of those dudes that's not completely necessary. So I think I'm gonna go with Buffkin. Oh no, excuse me. Their most valuable trade piece right here is this Pelicans Bucks first round pick right here. I do think that they should keep it. Just in case this season is a complete disaster to this team, because then like a couple salaries fall off the book, right? You could have this really, really good draft pick, and you've already got a couple interesting young players you're kind of starting to build around. So if you need to think about getting rid of Trey and things like that, which hopefully doesn't happen, this draft pick is obviously incredibly valuable. Shout out New Orleans for being dum-dums and giving that pick up. The Brooklyn Nets, they're obviously rebuilding. Something could very well be valuable as a draft pick to them. They've got like this Sixers 2027 first round pick, but it's 1 through 8 protected, so it's never going to be like elite in that sense. Michael Porter Jr. next year could be pretty valuable. Nick Claxton is always going to be somewhat of a valuable option because he's kind of right at market price for a center, and you have to imagine his production is going to have quite the uptick here. I don't think it's going to be a Terrence Mann. A lot of their young players aren't like that interesting, so I'm going to say it's probably Nick Claxton is their most valuable trade piece right now. I do think he should probably just stick on the team for the time being. Like, there's no point in having all these young guys if you're not going to just have a couple professionals on the team. So I'm going to say for the Nets, it's Nick Claxton. Boston Celtics. Okay. This is an interesting one when we're talking about assets, right, and what's actually tradable. Well, right now it's probably Anthony Simons, right? It seems like they're probably going to try to get rid of him to try to open up some more like roster flexibility, try to duck the luxury tax. Sam Hauser could be another one on the move, but Anthony Simons is such an awesome offensive player. He's just not the best defensive player. People will want him. He can be a starting point guard in the NBA if you're just looking for a bucket getter, which I think a couple teams still could probably use that. So I think that would be somewhat valuable to move. In terms of like other people, I don't know. Like I said, Sam Hauser's probably the only other one. None of their draft picks are particularly interesting to anyone else, so it's probably got to be Anthony Simons, and it feels like Simons is going to be moved before the end of the summer. Maybe they get another center to try to help address kind of the not so great center rotation that they have at this current moment, because obviously this team still wants to remain competitive. Moving over to Charlotte here, and again, apologies if the whole roster isn't up to date at this point. We can talk about some of the important things. The thing with this roster is you're looking at some of their draft pick situations here. They've got like a Mavericks pick here. They've got a Heat protected lottery pick. They've got a couple of other complicated firsts, so there's not like an elite draft pick here per se, but they've got a lot of overlap in terms of like guard play, right? So some of these guards could be pretty valuable draft picks. I look at like a Trey Mann, who's a guy that we saw is capable of getting you like 20 points a night at times. Obviously the injuries and everything slowed him down, but dude's kind of a bucket. Maybe he falls behind at a certain point this year, and or he falls deeper into the lineup than is necessary. You could look to move him. Colin Sexton, who they recently added, I don't think they even really intended to get him. The Jazz were just kind of like, hey, we'll take Nurkic from you, and you can have Colin Sexton, and we'll give you a pick. And they were like, sure. thank you, I suppose. I don't get it, but yeah, no, absolutely. Great move by you guys. So they just kind of got Colin Sexton. That could be a very valuable thing, much like Anthony Simons. Awesome offensively. He's going to try defensively, but he's not going to be very successful at it. And there is probably the LaMelo Ball conversation, right? There's going to be some conversations this year if things aren't necessarily going all that great of being like, okay, do we just do a complete reset? We've got new front office here and everything. Is it just time to get rid of LaMelo Ball? So obviously, if that's the case, he becomes that guy. But otherwise, I'd say a Colin Sexton or a Trey Mann could be very valuable in that instance. The sleeper pick, Josh Green, just because Josh Green, his effort and the 3-and-D of everything is really cool. The Chicago Bulls, my Chicago Bulls. We don't have any valuable draft picks, that's for sure, because we probably need these draft picks because this team should be rebuilding. Who is worth something on this team? Nikola Vucevic, so there's so much talk of like the Bulls potentially having to buy him out of his contract this year, which is fucking crazy to me. Like, you can't tell me that somebody doesn't want this guy. I understand that he's not like an elite defensive center. I understand that. He's not a bad defensive center. Like, well, sometimes he is. He's a pretty bad pick and roll defender in my mind. But offensively, he's more than solid. He's like consistently available all the time. He's a good rebounder. He's a double-double machine, right? He's getting paid under market value, and there are teams that need centers. There's no way that a trade can't be figured out for him. He's a valuable basketball player. If he got bought out, right, there are going to be 20 NBA teams that call him within 5 minutes. So you can't say that nobody wants him, right? It's more so just teams aren't willing to pay what probably the Bulls are asking for. We know that the Bulls are often a little bit ridiculous in their trade negotiations. Nobody wants Zach Collins. Nobody probably wants Kevin Huerter for that price. Patrick Williams is rough. Kobe White's another one where you don't really need Kobe White on this team because they should be rebuilding. Really, they should have traded him last year while he had another year on his contract. But in terms of output versus contract, he's one of the more valuable ones in the NBA. So that could be an option there. Jalen Smith could be an interesting one just as like a backup center that's going to give you quality minutes. Javon Carter could be an interesting trade chip for teams that have a little bit more expensive of a player that's not producing. They could take back at least a competent basketball player in Javon Carter. But obviously this team has so many guards that you could, and obviously Josh Giddey hasn't been re-signed yet, but you can get rid of some of them. But I'm going to say for the time being, it's Vucevic. He's probably the most valuable guy that you could potentially add. Moving on to the Cleveland Cavaliers. This is an interesting one, right? Because they are contending. So their draft picks alone, like this Cavaliers 2031 draft pick, could very well be it, because people will be like, oh, are they still going to all be together by that time? You would kind of hope so, because they do have like some younger players in Mobley and Garland that are still like very good. I mean, Mitchell's in the prime of his career, right? Kind of same with Allen. Guys like Hunter kind of in that prime now. So I'm looking at like other people potentially on this roster that could be valuable trade chips to this team. Like obviously, if you determine you just want to do the one guard thing of just like a Donovan Mitchell, Darius Garland would probably be extremely valuable to people and everything that he's able to do on the basketball court. But I think they probably just want to keep this core together and try things out. So I'm going to say their 2031 first round pick, because this was one that they can actually trade. Is probably the most valuable thing that they can move at this point in time. Moving on to the Dallas Mavericks. Wow, they have a lot of assets, don't they, in terms of just like good basketball players. None of their draft picks are probably going to fall into it completely. Obviously, we are trying to win basketball games right now. We also have a Cooper Flagg, Derek Lively, kind of younger core going on here. Even a Max Christie is somewhat interesting, right? I'm going to right away point out Daniel Gafford / PJ Washington. As much as it's nice to keep both guys on the team because they're both very good, you probably don't need both of them, right? Because Cooper Flagg like could kind of come in at that forward, that bigger forward spot here. You got Derek Lively already. You got Anthony Davis. Probably don't need all of them. You certainly can. It's great to have such a deep rotation, but you know, there's other guys at the small forward spot, whether that be Klay Thompson, Najee Marshall, Caleb Martin. These are all very capable NBA players. Max Christie can get out there and hoop. Dante Exum can get out there and hoop, right? You've got plenty of options on this team. So I'm going to say it's either a PJ Washington or a Daniel Gafford. Again, not saying you have to move them, but if the right, say, guard becomes available or something, it could be a nice kind of role player type swap here. So just what I'm thinking. The Denver Nuggets, they don't really have any tradable picks. at this point. They've had a very, very good offseason, despite what Bleacher Report wants you to believe. That we read the one article. Which one was it? Oh, yeah, we did this one. We were grading NBA teams' offseason. Oh, that looks like it right there in the preview of it, where they're talking about Denver or whatever. It makes no sense. They gave them like a bad grade. Denver's had an amazing offseason. We thought it was going to be hopeless trying to put together like a competent team here, and they've done it. They've put somewhat of a bench behind this team. I still think they need to add like another guard to this roster, and they've got space to do so. Obviously, Zeke Naji is the one that we'd like to move the most, but I don't necessarily think that he's all that valuable. Oh, I think we can all kind of tell he's not that valuable. So looking around, who becomes that next most valuable guy? Obviously, Christian Brown would be, but I think we're all hoping he just continues to become a better and better player. Have you guys seen him with a beard and a shaved head? Dude hit puberty, it's over for all of us. He looks like Zach LaVine now. It's scary. But anyway, Peyton Watson could be, if you kind of would rather go with like a Julian Strawther instead and hope that maybe he becomes like a better defensive player and then the offense gets a little bit more consistent. Peyton Watson could become expendable. Maybe people get curious about Deron Holmes, but I'm going to guess Peyton Watson, probably not the most needed player. You're probably in this current iteration of the team, you want Peyton Watson in your rotation, right? But if you have to give up something to get something, Peyton Watson's probably the best thing that you have available right now, because you could go to like a Strawther or something. All right, moving on to Detroit. What does Detroit have in terms of like picks? They have some of their own picks, which aren't completely necessary at this point. So if the right player becomes available, maybe you ship out like a 20-30 first round pick. You have all these second round picks that you could package in with them. Because look, you have enough young guys on this team between Duren, like Asar, you got Ron Holland, Jaden Ivey, Cade Cunningham. Maybe you don't have like that second star per se, so maybe you want to hang on to the pick, but presumably the Pistons are going to start being good at basketball, right? Like that's kind of what we're figuring, is that they're going to start being like a more regular playoff team again, in large part because Cade Cunningham is just phenomenal, right? So who becomes that player? It could be a Jaden Ivey if we determine that, hey, it's just not beneficial for him to play next to a Cade. We think Jaden Ivey's very talented, but he's never going to get to do exactly what's best for him. Blah, 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 blah. You get it, playing next to Cade because he likes to have the ball as well. And look, I want to make it clear, I'm not one of those people that buys into this really stupid narrative of like, oh, well, this guy, AVC, needs to have the basketball, so he can't play next to this guy who has the basketball. Good players, when they're around like other good players, you just kind of make it work, right? You should be able to make it work. Yes, there's only one basketball. Smart players know how to not have the basketball as well. So maybe that player isn't actually as good as we think if they can't work without the basketball, which I think Jaden Ivey should be able to, but we'll see this year. This year will be very telling. So it could be Jaden Ivey. The article noted Ron Holland. I don't necessarily disagree with that because I don't think Ron Holland makes a ton of sense in this kind of core that they're building. I never liked the draft pick. I loved like Pistons fans like relax right now because they're ABC. Ron Holland tries so fucking hard on defense. Yes, I know he's also kind of a dum-dum in terms of basketball right now, but yes, he tries very hard on defense. You're right, and I'm hopeful for Ron Holland. I hope he figures it all out. He's young, give him time. But I don't think he's really necessary long-term in this core. So if you could flip him for something more valuable that fits a little bit more, maybe a more offensive-minded player, I think that could be kind of good. So that's probably who I'm going to go with there, is Ron Holland, maybe Ivy. The Golden State Warriors. One of their draft picks, sure, could become valuable because they'll be like, oh, Curry will be gone, yada, yada, yada. You get it. In terms of other people, Moses Moody, if he has like a good season, could be interesting to people because you don't necessarily need him. And you'll just have to take it from me internally. I know he hasn't always been the happiest there. I don't actually know if that's public knowledge or not, but you'll just have to take my word for it, I suppose. But Moses Moody, probably most valuable player, but yeah, it probably is like one of their like 2027, 2028, 2029, or I guess it'd have to be like a 28 or 27 pick here. That could be pretty valuable. So I'm going to guess the 28 pick because that one's a few more years out, and that's enough time for the Currys, the Butlers, and the Draymond Greens to be gone, possibly, at that point. So I'm going to say it's probably that draft pick that people would find particularly interesting. So if you can go get a hooper with that, good for you. Good for you. Let's move on to Houston. Houston's got a bunch of interesting things going on here. So the Rockets have this swap best with Brooklyn 2027 first round pick, right? If that's the case, that instantly becomes a super, super valuable pick, right? Because Brooklyn is probably not going to be good by that point, right? Unless all those young guns really start to figure it out, right? Unless all those young guns start to figure it out, then damn, got my ass, right? But it's probably going to be that. Jabari Smith Jr. could be one. I'd like to keep trying with him to see if we're going to get it figured out, because I really like the defense of him. I think he's got great defensive instincts. Yes, we'd like his rebounding to be better, yada, yada, yada. He's young. Shut the fuck up. Calm down. I hope the three-point shot's going to figure itself out. It's nice that they've got a vet and like a Kevin Durant on the team, right? You hope that they can kind of start to build on that stuff. Reed Shepherd, yeah, if he's not going to... It has to be like this year if you're going to trade him, right? So I could kind of see that. If he's just not looking great in like early season, like training camp and things like that, and it's still looking like really scary, and that's not quite fair, right? Because like, at least in my expectations of him, I figured he was going to be quite a while before he would be ready to play. And it's lame to put those kind of expectations on him right away, just because his defense is just, it's rough, right? It's not because of a lack of effort. It's just, he's small, right? And he's not, it's not going to happen with him. He's probably never going to be like an elite defensive player. But if none of the offense is coming together either, somebody would take a flyer on him. I don't know how much you're going to get for him at this point either. So I'd probably say let's just keep it simple and say it's this swap pick right here. I think that makes the most sense. Moving on to the Pacers. Oh, this Pacers team just pisses me off to look at it now after the whole like Miles Turner situation and everything. It just makes me irrationally mad. But did y'all see that video of Jay Huff just doing all those reverse dunks? I'm so glad that that's not just something I noticed like as he played, that he reverse dunked a lot, that's just like a preference of his. I don't know why it cracks me up so much. None of their draft picks are probably particularly valuable at this point. Maybe like a 2030 Pacers first round pick could be. Maybe. I'm not so sure, right? I don't know where this team's going at this point, but maybe that one becomes available. Andrew Nembhard seems to fit pretty well next to Halliburton. Obi Toppin would probably be valuable to people, and maybe they'll say they can just go with the Jarris Walker, so that could be something. Jarris Walker itself, somebody probably bites on that and gets a little bit curious about it. Ben Mathurin, if he doesn't become more consistent, maybe you want to move on. Maybe Johnny Furphy's starting to show some stuff at points, because I'm a little bit hopeful about Johnny Furphy, we'll say. That could be a guy that could become expendable in Mathurin, just because like there is a lot of interesting offense to his game, right? He's obviously still a younger player. Dude's got a ton of tood, and I love the tood on him. So that could be something that's valuable, but I wouldn't say there's a ton of super valuable trade pieces here. I'll say it's probably Obi Toppin, because you don't necessarily need him. But obviously he would be a nice player on like a contending team, as he just was this last season. The Clippers. Obviously the Clippers have like future draft picks that they can use. If I were a GM and they were trading me a pick, I'd be like, the Clippers seem like one of these teams that is just gonna continually try to win basketball games at this point, which, like, credit to them. That's awesome. I think more teams should be like that. That's a way better problem to have than like just being stuck in the middle all the time. So I don't personally value those picks a ton. If we're looking at like other people that could be valuable at some point, like it's not gonna be like a Zubats. If you don't end up needing like a Bogdanovich, just because I mean we're looking at this team, right, and we've got in a guard rotation a Chris Paul, a Chris Dunn, James Harden, Bradley Beal, then Bogdanovich. I mean Bogdanovich can go get you some buckets. I mean we've seen that plenty of times, right? The 16 million's a little bit harder to move nowadays than it used to, but he's probably not a necessary player that maybe you could go get something at a more necessary position or something, but I'm not saying you have to trade him by any means. And like ignore his numbers a little bit. Like his numbers were a lot better once he got to the Clippers and got off of Atlanta. So I'm going to say it's probably that. I'm really looking forward to see how they develop Yannick, because I think once we get like the effort a little bit higher, I think this guy could be a really, really interesting player. So I'm gonna stick with Bogdanovich here. The Lakers. All right, Lakers fans, I know this is the moment you're waiting for. Like, AVC, how do we get Walker Kessler for a second round pick? I know it can happen. I saw it on Twitter. Yeah, I know. I know you guys did. I know. It's okay, Lakers fans. It's okay. Their first round picks probably have some value to them. They're not going to have as much value because Luka's here now, right? And you're not going to do like a full rebuild as long as Luka's on the team, right? So these picks aren't as valuable as you might think. The Lakers might just not be that great at certain points, but with Luka getting back into shape and everything, I saw that. I saw the cover of that magazine. Dude was looking fine, and I'm not afraid to say that either. I'm brave on the internet. Luka looking fine out there. I'm excited, man. MVP season loading type shit, you know. But I don't think their picks are extremely valuable. The Dalton Connect stuff, I understand. There's a lot of people saying, like, yeah, his trade value isn't, like, phenomenal. I'd be curious to get a Dalton Connect on my team. Like, we've seen interesting offense from him, so I don't think it's anything, like, that crazy. I actually think Jared Vanderbilt, like, I know offensively he kind of does nothing, but for the, like, $11 million, I feel like there's teams out there that have players at, like, not as good contracts or that have not as good contracts. I would rather just have a Jared Vanderbilt because you know you're at least going to get like a clamps defender out there. That's at least how I look at it. So I think that could be kind of valuable. This Jake LaRavia contract, honestly, like they should probably keep him, but because he's just a solid player, but it's a really great valued contract. So that could be something that you take a look at. Maybe if you don't want Austin Reeves long term, which I'm not prepared to do that, and I'm not trading Rui Hachimura either. I think Hachimura is like quietly such an important part of this team. I don't know. I don't feel the need to move any of these guys, but once I think Vanderbilt could be that thing. I think you could sell somebody on him. I feel like I could sell somebody on him, so I'm gonna go with that. The Memphis Grizzlies. This is an interesting one, right? You look at some of the picks, right? They've got a couple extra first round picks that could be valuable in something. Looking at the team, a Scottie Pippen Jr. could be extremely valuable. I'm not saying Grizzlies fans, relax. I'm not saying trade Scottie. I think Scottie was so awesome for you guys. It was very cool. GG Jackson should get you a decent haul just in a little bit we've seen. Vince Williams Jr. maybe isn't going to get a ton of burn right now, but we've seen a little bit from him. These two obviously just suffered from a lot of injuries recently, or more, not a lot of injuries, but injuries that kept them out of games. But we've seen enough of those two to know that they're like NBA quality players and younger guys, and teams could develop them. You guys know my opinion on GG Jackson. I think that guy is I think he's awesome. A Brandon Clark, if healthy, could be enticing to somebody that needs like a backup center. We know his effort like defensively and rebounding wise is always really, really good. So that could be an option. I wouldn't trade a Santi Aldama, Jaren Jackson. I'd want to keep a Jalen Wells right now. KCP, I find it hard to imagine you'll be able to flip him again. Maybe a Cam Spencer becomes irrelevant if like a Cedric Coward looks really good early on, which maybe that happens, and I think a lot of teams would be interested in a Cam Spencer. So could be a guy like that as well, but I think I'm going to go with GG Jackson for now. That feels like the most valuable trade piece you have. You can send him to the Bulls. You guys need that starter quality center, right? You guys saw Zach Edey was speeding this offseason. Ooh, he's a bad boy. He was speeding. Ooh, you need a center. You still need a starting center. We can give you Vucci Coochie. We can give you Vucci Coochie, man. So you slide us a little GG Jackson. Maybe we'll make the salary work with Brandon Clark or something. Shit, we'll take him. Like, let's just make it happen, y'all. Let's just make it happen. What am I on today? The Miami Heat. It's the boring point in the season, y'all. It's the boring point in the season. I gotta do shit to make y'all entertained during your lunch breaks. The Miami Heat. Interesting. Yes, they're like 2030 first round pick or like the 2029 first round pick could be valuable. I'm not trading Kel'el Ware. I don't know why the article would suggest that, because like, look, whether this team tries to rebuild, which it doesn't typically do because they're the Miami Heat, right? And I think that that's a valuable thing that they don't do that. Or they're just trying to win basketball games. I just think it's advantageous to have this guy because I think he's going to be a good basketball player. And I don't know who's going to become available right now that's really going to help this group in a way to where trading Kel'el Ware is worth it. So I think we got to look at other people. Yes, these future firsts could be interesting because sometimes the Heat do come in as like an 8-9 seed or something like that. So maybe you could get a lottery pick out of them. Maybe it's probably not going to be a great pick though. Obviously Terry Rozier, they're probably trying to trade. I'd find it hard to believe if he didn't get traded at some point this offseason, just because I think there's moves in place that make it very logical to have it happen. Fontecchio, I'm not so sure. Somebody would definitely take a Haywood Highsmith, and you don't necessarily need him when you have a Fontecchio and Jaime Jaquez. I know Heat fans, like, those aren't the most exciting guys you want to throw on the court. But I think you could maybe get away with like trading a Haywood Highsmith because he's so good defensively. He can shoot from the outside, right? At that forward spot, a lot of teams would find that really valuable. Maybe you could get something else back that's interesting, right? Jovic, people will always be curious about him. Jaime Jaquez, probably a little bit low in value right now, but I'd find him interesting, but I'm going to say Haywood Highsmith is probably your most valuable trade piece right now. Obviously, if you make a Tyler Hero available at some point, that's interesting, but I don't think he'd have as much value as you'd necessarily want. So I'm going to say Haywood Highsmith is probably your most valuable piece. The Bucks. Ooh, I'm sure they would love to know what their most valuable trade asset is right now. I'm sure they're like, please, AVC, tell us, because we don't know what it is. Okay, we're looking. Yeah, this like Bucks 2031 first round pick's the first thing you notice, right? Who knows where Giannis is at that point, so that instantly probably becomes pretty valuable. Just looking down the roster, it's not a Kuzma, it's not any of these guys. Andre Jackson Jr. I'd be curious about, and Tyler Smith is just someone that I'm personally curious about. But looking at other people like Bobby Portis, people would be all over that contract. I think since you're trying to win, you probably want to keep him around. Maybe Ryan Rollins if he continues to show something, but you probably want to keep him around. I don't actually know what the Cole Anthony contract is yet. I'll have to fill that stuff in later. Oh, and Bogo's staying overseas, so that just probably makes more sense that he does that. Yeah, that's a tough one. It's just got to be the 2031 first round pick. That's the most valuable thing here. Again, mostly because you don't want to trade like some of these things. They're just more important to hold on to than not. So yeah, we're just gonna go with the 2031 pick here. The Minnesota Timberwolves, they've probably got a couple things that are kind of interesting. It's definitely not any of their draft picks, but that's okay. They're contending, right? They've been in the conference finals 2 years in a row. They're doing good things. Instantly, my mind kind of wonders, and I'm gonna say wonder, right? Like a Jalen Clark. Could you sell somebody on a Jalen Clark? The defense was awesome. Offense not as great. Last year, he had a couple moments. You don't necessarily need him in the rotation, right? When you look at some of the other things that are here between Terrence Shannon Jr., Anthony Edwards, DiVincenzo, right? There's some interesting stuff there. So he kind of becomes an odd man out. But teams would definitely be interested in the young guy that works that hard defensively, right? Rob Dillingham, if you don't believe in him that much, then maybe that could be an option. Look, there's the cynic in me that says a Jaden McDaniels just because I really like Terrence Shannon Jr. But I'm not going to say that as of right now. I'd rather just have Jaden McDaniels right now, even though he can be a bit of a dum-dum at points. But just kind of looking at this team, is Zakarski? He's on a two-way contract, so he's not supposed to be in the depth chart there. But yeah, I'm going to say it's probably Jalen Clark is an interesting one that you could move here. You wouldn't be able to get a ton back because it's a minimum salary, and so for that reason alone, you probably just hold on to him, right? Because the output versus contract like number itself is so good, but that's someone that you could throw into something to really sweeten the pot. The Pelicans, the Pelicans. Well, you had a really nice draft pick at one point, so yeah, this swap best with Milwaukee in 2027 is still pretty good. I think you want to hold on to the rest of your picks, though. I'm gonna keep it real with you because we're not sure where this team is going at this point. Looking at, they've got like some young guys. You probably just want to hold on to those. A Jose Alvarado could be extremely valuable to people if you want Jeremiah Fears to get more minutes right away. So that's an instant one that I look at. Jordan Hawkins, I personally find very interesting. I know the output was really rough last season, but I'm personally curious in him. I don't think you need to trade a Herb or Trey Murphy right now. I just hold on to them. I think they're such great value contracts. DeJounte Murray, just because of the injuries and everything, is probably more of a negative asset than anything else at this point. Hopefully he comes back and he's healthy. Jordan Poole and Zion. Zion, if he becomes available, is obviously extremely valuable, but for the time being, I'm going to say Jose Alvarado, just for the idea that you might want Fears to get on the court a little bit more, and Alvarado does a lot for a basketball team, so we're going to go with him. The New York Knicks. Okay, so they have this Wizards pick that's protected, that's not going to become anything. Why is it taking so long for my pictures to load? Hey, there we go. Thank you very much. I got good internet. I know I got good internet, so what y'all waiting for? A lot of the players on this team are very necessary. They are very, very necessary, right? I'm not trading like any of these top guys. We see what they're able to do. Throw Mitchell Robinson in it. Throw Deuce McBride into it. Daddier could be something just because he was a first-round pick, and I actually like Kolek like more than Daddier probably because he's a little bit further away. So this one's kind of tough. It's not a super valuable asset, but I'm going to go with a Pacome here. I just think that he's probably going to be a more important asset going forward. And again, a reminder, sorry if things aren't completely up to date at all. The Thunder. Yeah, they got assets on assets, don't they? It could be a number of things. Like they got some Jazz picks, they got a Sixers pick here. Who knows? That one could end up being interesting if the Sixers are still just like kind of bad. Like if everyone gets hurt again next year, but the Sixers are like the 5th worst team or something. Oh god, if the Thunder got another like lottery pick out of them, oh boy. They got some Nuggets and Spurs picks here, but I think their value is more so in the players' side of things. AJ Mitchell showing that he can be like a pretty good basketball player, actually, which I really enjoyed watching him during the season last year, before even like some of the summer league stuff where people really caught on to him. We were on the channel saying, y'all, out of all the rookies, this AJ Mitchell might be the toughest one, right? And then he got hurt or whatever and fell out of the rotation. Topic is obviously a big mystery man, former lottery pick, might have gone a lot higher in the draft if he didn't tear his ACL, right? He's going to be instantly valuable. Maybe someone still finds Jeng valuable, right? If you need to package an Isaiah Joe or an Aaron Wiggins, because I don't think you necessarily need both of them. I mean, keep them if you can, but these guys would be extremely valuable to someone. I think Isaiah Joe in particular, but Topic has to be the most like interesting one right now, right? So I'm probably just gonna go with Topic. Moving on to the Orlando Magic, Orlando Magic, Orlando Magic. Let's see what's valuable in these guys' teams, right? What do they have of value? It's none of the picks or anything, and obviously they got their little core going on right now. They got Franz, Baines on the team now. They got Suggs, Banchero, obviously. Excuse me for not just saying you first, Mr. Paulo. Anthony Black is a guy that I don't think is necessary on this team, but I think teams would be interested in like the size and the playmaking guard like that, especially now that Tyus Jones is on the team. Wendell Carter, just because he is a cheap center option, and you could probably sell yourselves on if the right player became available. You could talk yourself into, well, we've got Wagner, we've got Goga, who can play center minutes. Paulo you could throw there if you absolutely had to. It's not the most advantageous thing, but you could do it, right? And it would have some advantages. It would have some disadvantages as well, like with any decision. But I don't think Jet Howard's quite as valuable as he used to be. De Silva's got to show he can do like something in the NBA first before we get there. Jonathan Isaac, the injuries are always probably going to scare people, even though defensively he's an absolute juggernaut still. So I'm gonna go with like an Anthony Black, I think, for right now. Again, I don't think he's completely necessary on this team. I don't think he's the type of guard you want around Paulo and Franz going forward, like in the long term. Like, don't get me wrong, I think he's very interesting as a player on himself, right? But is he needed on this team? I don't think so. So you could probably get a pretty decent return for an Anthony Black right now, and that's credit to them for making him a serviceable player. There's a garbage truck like dumping things outside right now, so I hope you guys can't hear that too much right now because I'm gonna keep talking. The Philadelphia 76ers. It's gotta be the Clippers pick potentially, right? Like that pick is pretty valuable, but again, we said the Clippers, they seem to just be in go mode constantly now. Maybe by 2028 they kind of are forced into like a little bit of a soft rebuild because the guys just leave the team more so than anything. But it could be that pick. Right now, it could be that pick. Because you look at some of the other guys in the team, like Justin Edwards is probably interesting to people. Did Ricky Council get waived? Pretty sure Ricky Council got waived. I don't know. I'll go update the spreadsheet at some point. I'm not saying Ricky Council is valuable even. I'm just trying to remember like what happened. But looking at like a Kelly Oubre, maybe you could sell some people on him. I don't think you want to get rid of necessarily anybody on this team, and even if you did, they're not going to have a ton of value, so we're just going to say this Clippers 2028 pick is probably the best thing you got right now, because you don't really need it. You don't necessarily need it, but I wouldn't trade it right away either. Looking at the Phoenix Suns, okay. Oh, I don't really like looking at this roster right now. I'm going to keep it a $150 with you. It's none of the draft picks. It's just not. I know the article kind of said that. I don't think I'd be giving up draft picks right now if I were you guys, because you guys have like interesting players to trade. Instantly, my mind goes to like Grayson Allen is cool, but I feel like Nick Richards is a guy you could sell people on. So many teams still need big men, right? He's a cheap, quality big man that you can throw out there. I know it didn't look good in Phoenix. I know it didn't. I think that's just more of a Phoenix thing than anything else. And you have Iguodaro, who's at least looking like he could be an NBA player out there. You have Mark Williams. You have Maluach. So Nick Richards feels extremely expendable right now, and like you could maybe start somewhat of a bidding war for him. So let's keep this simple and just call it Nick Richards. Looking at the Portland Trailblazers. Okay, what draft picks are we working with here? We've got some of our own. Like, I believe the Trailblazers, like, 2026 pick is, like, lottery protected with the Bulls or something right now. So you're probably going to see that back anyway. You just can't do anything with it right now. You could trade, like, a future first if the right thing became available. Let's be honest. The most valuable thing they probably have is Drew Holiday, right? It just probably is. You don't necessarily need Drew Holiday going forward. It's cool that he's on the team and he can be kind of a vet with them. It seems like the trade that took place was more so to be like, hey, we can get him for cheap right now and sell him later for more. Like, it just seems like a solid asset move more so than anything else. And I'm sure they don't have a complete idea of where he's going to go, and maybe he will stick around on the team. I'd find that hard to believe, though. There's not much of a point in having him there. So people will be all over Drew Holiday, though. In some capacity, they will be interested in him as long as he does not look like dog shit this year, which I can't imagine he will. But if he doesn't, then yeah, people will be all over Drew Holiday. I think that's the kind of obvious answer. Robert Williams, sneaky pick if he's like healthy for a season, which, yeah, that's asking a lot. Sacramento Kings. What is this team doing, man? I just don't know. I just don't know what this team's doing. You're probably not going to get a ton for DeRozan at this point, but maybe something. Malik Monk probably gets you a decent amount, and there's just not a point in having Malik Monk on the team right now. The $18 million is not easy to trade, but again, he's a proven contributor out there, so I could see somebody being interested. Keon Ellis would probably get you a pretty solid return. Look, if you're blowing things up, sure, get rid of him before you have to pay him, I guess, because again, there's no point in paying a Keon Ellis in the current state of this team. So is it Monk? Is it Keon? It's probably not Devin Carter because you haven't seen much of him. Keegan Murray is still someone that is extremely interesting to me, but I don't know why you would trade him, because if you went into a rebuild, I'd want to have him on the team. Sabonis, if you make him available, instantly becomes the most valuable thing that you can trade. So very well could be him, and I'd probably make an argument that this team probably should just make him available and stop trying to do what they're doing right now, which is to try to be competitive, it feels like. I don't know, man. So I guess we just go with Sabonis, just off of AVC's recommendation of you guys just need to blow this thing up and try again. Moving on to the Spurs. Spurs got a lot of interesting things here. They've got a Hawks 2027 pick that could be pretty valuable, right? They've got like other picks here, but there's just a lot of them. So good for them. Fox, like if Dylan Harper's just like a hooper right away, right? And Stephon Castle's still looking good, man, Fox could become expendable really quickly, but for the time being, I'm going to say no. A Keldon Johnson, a Devin Vassell, a Jeremy Sohan are all probably guys that aren't absolutely necessary on this team that could be really valuable if the right guy becomes available. But again, we're going to say with the Spurs, there's no point in them like rushing really anything. I do think that there's maybe some logic in trading Vassell just to help you kind of avoid the luxury tax a little bit longer. So I think there's strategic like money reasons to move on from Devin Vassell, and you could probably get a solid return on him because he is kind of a bucket getter, right? So I guess we'll go with Vassell for that reason alone, but I don't think they need to make moves. I don't think they need to. The Toronto Raptors, what kind of assets do they have? Shout out to them for just having their picks. Very cool. We don't know where this team's going. I must admit, as confusing of a team as this is as to what they're trying to accomplish, because nobody knows what they're trying to accomplish, right? Aside from, I guess, they're trying to win basketball games. I want to see this team play together. Like, it's just such a odd group of guys that you've put together that it's just intriguing more so than anything else. So I want to see it happen. Looking at people that they could trade that could have some value, I could see like maybe like a Grady Dick, because he's not like absolutely critical to this team. Like, you need the shooting. He can shoot the basketball, getting to the rim and everything we know is a huge struggle for him defensively. He's really rough. I don't think he's enough of a piece on this team to where you couldn't trade him if the right thing became available. So probably him, because I don't know like what you're going to be able to get for like an RJ Barrett or a Quickly at this point, and like these contracts are just too hard to move. So I'm going to say it's probably Grady Dick is probably the most valuable thing that you could have. We already talked about Utah. Let's finish it up with Washington. We're going to keep clapping it up for Washington, man, because obviously they've been just a laughing stock for forever, and they're still going to suck this year. Don't get me wrong, y'all. I think that they're not going to be very good. I hope they prove me wrong. That'd be cool. I don't think they care to be good this year either, by the way. But just they're making good moves recently, and it's exciting to see. Let's hope that they keep it up. I'll believe it when I see it, right? But we'll see. What don't they need on this team? Well, They've got a couple of extra picks that are a little bit more complicated, but nothing that immediately stands out. A Chris Middleton, like, you're probably not going to trade him or McCollum at this point. Corey Kispert, offensively didn't have the greatest season last year, so that's a little bit concerning. Koulibaly, I think you probably just keep him around more so than anything else. You don't need all of these young guys on the team. You don't need all of them, but I don't know who's like the most valuable guy that you don't need on this team, because none of these guys are really needed outside of, like, you keep Sarr for sure, you keep like Trey Johnson for sure, right? Like yeah, we're experimenting with Bub Carrington and AJ Johnson. Like Cam Whitmore we're going to experiment with. Koulibaly we're going to try something with. Will Riley, obviously. There's a lot of guys we're just trying out right now, none that are immediately available. So I guess if Corey Kispert's hitting his shot, he could be something for somebody, right? That's for sure. Otherwise, I guess maybe if a Will Riley makes a Keyshawn George like irrelevant, or vice versa, one of them could be something. But I imagine this team's probably just going to hold on to most of their young guys anyway. So we're going to say if Corey Kispert can hit a 3-pointer this year, which it's just going to help having better players in the basketball team this year, then yeah, it's probably him. But those are the top trade pieces I think that every team has right now. What should they do with them? I don't fucking know. I don't know. So you guys give me some trade ideas down in the comments section below or something like that. I don't know. But anyway, I appreciate you guys for watching. Stay tuned for the comment of the video. Alrighty, so I haven't necessarily picked a comment of the video for this one, but what I want to do is I want to take a look at our most recent video, the ranking the most overrated NBA players right now. This was a video that I very much said, like, hey, you can be a little wild in the comment section for a change and just have like irrational takes, but I think it's time to put some of those like irrational takes just on blast, and we can maybe go through some of them together, just because I'm kind of curious about these. I've responded to, I think, all the comments up to this point. Like this person right here, Window Man, said, I have not watched the video yet, but Scotty Barnes overrated. You didn't even watch the fucking video yet, dum-dum. Go watch the video before you comment. That's so cringy. I think a lot of these dudes on the list are treated with skepticism as to whether they're overrated. Yep, I tend to agree with that. Official Tobo. Oh, he wants a story time about that time I played against Fox. Yeah, no, I'm not gonna do that. Somebody said could be because of the hit, but I wasn't impressed by Chet this year. I believe I investigated, and I was like, I mean, if people are saying he's an all-star, then yeah, I'd probably agree with that. What else do we have on here? Yeah, people were surprised to see Tyler Hero on the list for the exact reasons that I listed. We've got right here, in my opinion, I would say Amen Thompson is becoming a bit overrated. Not saying not a great player, but conversations are getting a bit crazy, and it looks like people had a lot of thoughts on that one. So there you go. De'Aaron Fox, overrated, toasting Goopal. The man has no business being on the list. He's a good defender. He plays hard every night with the capability of being able to drop 50, and he has God-given blah, 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 blah. I don't care. Cam Thomas, fairly overrated. Yep, I could kind of see that. I know this is a longer comment of the video thing. I just think it's interesting to go through these when we kind of let you guys do what you want to do. This person said, this is Star. I don't know what that means. Said Jalen Brunson. That had a lot of replies on it. That's a wild take in my mind, but they were basically saying because if he doesn't have the ball in his hands, he's not that valuable. But in all credit to them, I was like, okay, so is Luka overrated then? And they said yes to that as well, so at least they're consistent, and I respect that. Let's see. Kyrie is the most overrated player of all time. Just horrible take by Josh Langer here. Yeah, just bad take overall. I think Luka is overrated solely on the defensive acumen, to which I responded, what did they say here? Let's see. He said, if he makes an all-defensive third team just one time, I'll take that back, which I was like, that just doesn't make any fucking sense. What, he has to be like a top 1% defender in order for you to say he's like an okay, like, basketball player? Like overall, it just doesn't make any sense to me. I guess Zion is a bit overrated. I was like, yeah, it's more so an availability thing. Dwayne said Omer Ashik, which I just love that. That's hilarious. We had a Bronny James one here, which I was kind of like, do people actually think that Bronny James is overrated? I don't actually, or think that he's that good. I don't think there's many people that think he's like an awesome player. I think that Bronny could be a solid player. We have Paulo, LaMelo, and Trae Young in terms of being number one options. I actually think that was kind of an interesting topic, more so than anything else. But yeah, no, some interesting comments when you kind of let you guys be free a little bit. But anyway, we'll get back to the normal comment section rules now that you guys can find down here if you're ever curious about them. Just because I'm trying to make the internet a better place. I don't want things to become Twitter, and this was a video where I kind of allowed it to be Twitter a little bit more because it's a silly topic and there's not much to talk about right now. But anyway, go join the Discord if you want to have more good basketball conversations. I appreciate you guys as always. Hope you guys have a good week. Thanks so much. Bye.